Hi, this is Gary. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to calculate standard deviation on Microsoft Excel, or actually any form of Excel. We're going to use 2010 version for this example. And to start off, I'm going to get some data. Now, since I was a finance major, I like to study equities and stock price history and stuff like that. So I'm going to go to www.google.com, which I have right here, and I'm going to type in SPY, which is the S&P 500, and that's stock price history. So I'm going to go ahead and then I get a bunch of results, and I go down here and I see one that says Finance Yahoo, and I'll supersize that here for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to click open in new window, which I have right here, and I'm going to open that up, and then I get a bunch of data. Now, what I'm looking for is I'm just looking for a few data points, because we're calculating standard deviation. So we're basically going to look for monthly closing prices, because that sounds like something that's not too complicated. I mean, you can make it more complicated, but we're going to try to make this simple. So I'm going to look at historical prices, and I've highlighted that there. This says historical prices. I'm going to click on that, and then you're going to have to enter some data. Now I'm going to enter a date range here of 2012 to 2013, and we're going to go for monthly. And then after you enter that in, you want to click on Get Prices right there. Then we get our prices, and what I'll just do is I'll drag down from the date to the end of the data, and it's highlighted in blue there. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to hold down the Control-C button to copy data. That's a shortcut to copy the data. So we hold down Control-C to copy the data there. And now we want to open up the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet if we already haven't. It should be on your desktop. If it's not on your desktop, I would left click on the Start button at the bottom right hand corner and open MS Excel. And there's MS Excel right there. Now that we've got MS Excel opened, what we're going to do is we're going to paste the data we have, and the shortcut to do that is just to hold down Control or CTRL plus V to paste the data. I've shown that right there, those two buttons, and then we paste our data into Excel. Now we don't like it like this, so what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the data, and then we are going to select the entire sheet, or you can select just the data, and then you're going to click in between the columns to make it readable. I'll zoom in on that right here. You'll just double click in between the columns, and it should automatically space it based on the size of your data points. If you have like a really long sentence or something like that, it might make it the entire length of the page, so you'll have to resize it, but most of the time it'll get the data where you want quickly, or get it sized quickly. Now next we want to delete the data we don't need, and since we want closing prices, I'm going to delete all the stuff in the middle there. So I'm going to select all the data, and then I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to take this delete option right here. That's one of the options, so I'm going to select delete, and all that's gone. Then I'm going to click on the row 2 here. There's empty data, I don't want that, and I'm going to right click on that, and then there's a bunch of options come up. I'm selecting delete again, and then we've got these empty row spaces. Now I don't want to do delete each time, so I'm going to tell you a shortcut here, and what you want to do for the shortcut is you hold down CTRL plus Y, Control Y, and that'll repeat your last action, and that works good on the newer Excel versions. I don't know if it does on some of the older ones. So I just Control Y, and here I'll zoom out there. And then all these points right here that I've highlighted, we're going to delete those. So we delete those. Now we've got our data. Then I'll go ahead and I'll type in average at the bottom there. And then I need to calculate the average. So I'm going to type equals AVG, and then I'm going to highlight the cells B2 to B16, and that's our data point right there. So you highlight your data, whatever data point you have. And I'm going to start with this formula or this information on standard deviation, in case you're not already familiar with that, just to give us a little reminder here. So I type in AVG B2 to B16, and Microsoft Excel has found an error in the formula I've entered. They want me to type the whole word average, which works the same. So I'll go ahead and click yes here. And our average is 139.5 approximately. Now you can format these cells by right-clicking and then clicking right-clicking on that and then clicking format cell and then selecting numbers down. For this example, I'm just going to leave them. Go to the next piece right here. What we want to do is we want to use that mean or average, and we're going to stick it in the next cell right here. So I'm going to call it mean average. So that's going to equal B17. Now I got a dollar sign in front of B and a dollar sign in front of 17 because I want it to equal that blue cell we've highlighted, the B17 cell. And basically what the dollar sign is going to do is if I copy that formula, which I'll show you here, it's going to make it equal that cell and only that cell, no matter how many times I paste it, instead of equaling the cell below it or the cell to the right and stuff like that. So I've highlighted everything there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control C to copy the cell, or actually copy the formula here, and then I'm going to hit Control V. We're actually going to select all of this stuff, and I've highlighted red here, and I'm going to hold down Control V to paste the formula on the other cells to try to do it quickly. And then I paste it, and then we have all the data there, so we have the same number there. Now what we're doing for variance is the sum of squared deviations of n measurements from their mean divided by n minus 1, and we want to figure out what the squared deviations of the measurements from their mean are. And since we have the average and we have the adjusted close, we're first going to figure out the deviation and then we'll square it. So I type in a cell here, it says deviation. And then the deviation is going to be the difference between these two numbers. So I'm going to take cell B2, I'll zoom in on that here, minus C2. And then we get a number of, this one's 16.18. Now next, we want to go ahead and hold down Control C to copy that formula. And then we select all these items right here, or highlighted in red, and then we're going to hit Control V to go ahead and paste that formula there. And we've gone ahead and pasted it. Now we want to figure out what the squared deviations are. We know what the deviations are. So I'm going to type in squared deviations here. And the first cell, it's 16.18, so I'm going to type E equals D2, that cell right there, and I'm going to square it. And I'll zoom in so you can see the formula I've typed right there. And that equals 16.18 squared equals 290. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, like we did with the other ones, we're going to hit Control C to copy that formula. And then select all the cells we need to copy that to. And then we're going to hit Control V to paste that in there. And we'll go ahead and paste it. And now we have the squared deviations. Now we need to figure out what the sum of squared deviations is. So we're going to take a sum of E2 to E16. I'll zoom in on it there so you can see it. And we're going to type that in. And then that's going to give us our sum there. So we have our sum of our squared deviations there. Now we want to figure out what the variance is, and if you remember from that formula we had up earlier, we need to divide that by n minus 1. Well, we have 15 data points, which I've highlighted on the left, and n minus 1, or 15 minus 1 equals 14. So we're going to divide this 847.55 number by 14. And I'll set up a separate one right here with the I got variance and standard deviation on two different cells here. The first one to do is variance, so that's going to equal. I'll zoom in here. It's going to equal E17, that 847 number, and divided by 15 minus 1 or 14, and that gives us a total of 60.53. Now the easy part. we just need to calculate the standard deviation, and the standard deviation is the square root of the variance. Now there's two ways you do it. You could type in like square root and then the cell that has the variance number in it, or you can just do the quick way, which I'm doing, and I'll zoom on here, is cell F20, the variance cell, and then just raise it to the 0.5 power, which is the same thing as the square root. So we'll do that there. And now we have our variance of 7.78 or 7.8, and sorry, our standard deviation of 7.78 or 7.8, and our variance of 60.54. And there we have it, and that is basically one way you can calculate variance and standard deviation in Excel. You can do this with any types of data and stuff. Just keep in mind with when you're doing like small amounts of data, like less than 30, you typically want to use n-1 when you divide the sum of squared stuff. And for larger amounts of data, you'd use you can just use n as it's practically the same. But for small amounts of data, you want to use n-1, so the number -1, which we did right there. And that concludes our tutorial. Thank you for watching.